Hi guys, and welcome back to episode 5 of the In the Hub podcast with me, Neil Thacker. Today we're joined by the legendary broadcast and internet video consultant, Mark Johnson. You'll know Mark from his work as a host on StudioTech TV and his extraordinary 30-year career within the IBM in the UK. Mark now offers his expert advice as a consultant with TFN TV. I really hope that you enjoy this episode. How are you doing today, Mark?
I am doing great, and thanks very much for the invitation, Neil. It's good to be here.
No problem, Mark. Thank you very much for coming on. So, as we do on this podcast, we'll get straight into the questions, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, fire away.
Brilliant. So, how and when did you get started in the broadcasting industry, Mark?
Oh, now that's a good question. I suppose you could say that I've officially been in it for about 10 years now. But as I've always been interested in radio, I'm originally an engineer, and once an engineer, always an engineer. And many, many years ago, I actually had a small company with a couple of other people making TV transmitters. This must have been 30-something years ago, if not close to 40 years ago, a long time ago. So, I've been into, broadcasting in some ways. These TV transmitters were for radio hams. They weren't for, radio or TV. And I had a career in IT, which was doing very well, but always kept in on with video and audio. Did video editing on the first Ataris that came out. You probably don't even know what an Atari is, but it was one of the first sort of home computers that allowed you to do video editing. So we did that. I had one of the first portable video recorders, which was, in those days, it was like a backpack, like a small suitcase that you slung over your shoulder, attached with an umbilical cord to the camera, and went around and used that. I was actually interviewed on Thames Television of using that, one of the first people to use it, and with the amateur radio, TV, and stuff. So throughout the years, I've been into video and audio. When I was thinking that that my time in IT had been great, and I was going to leave that and do something else, because I'm not somebody who can sit around and do nothing. Can't just put my feet up. So about 10 years ago, I left the company I had been working for 30 odd years, and we started doing stuff on YouTube about how you stream, how you broadcast, how you can connect an HDMI camera to something that allows you to stream. Instantly, we started getting lots of people following it, and then people saying, well, can you help me with this? And then the company started, and the rest is history. So the last 10 years, I've been more or less full time in it, and it has been one hell of a ride, I can tell you.
So if we dig a little deeper into that, was there an exact moment where you decided that, independent consultancy was going to be for you?
I wanted to do something, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. And video and audio had been my love. The YouTube was just starting up then. It was something exciting. And we started getting lots of questions. And I suddenly realized that I thought everybody knew what I knew, but we quickly realized that we knew a lot more than most people. And after the 100th email on how do we do this, I thought, well, I'm giving lots of people free advice here. Why don't we actually, sort of formalize it a bit and put it under the company umbrella? And that was what did it. There was this need for information. I had, CBS in the United States calling me, asking me the best way of connecting Skype to their studios so they could use Skype as a video input. We helped all sorts of big organizations. It was a need. We didn't set out to make money or to try and dominate something. What we wanted to do was to help people, and that's where it started. And consultancy is a great way to do that. And after 30-something years in the corporate IT world, it was nice to be your own boss.
Yeah, I can imagine, Mark. So, what do you think is the main benefit for a company within our industry in particular for using independent consultancy?
I think the benefits are that we're not tied to anything. And this has been demonstrated to me by several clients who said, oh, we asked somebody to do some work for us, and they came out with this solution, and we're not happy with it. And then you find out that some of the consultants are perhaps not as flexible in what they look at, or it's easy to sell what you know. And if you've had a good experience with something, then that's what you tend to give to new clients. But because we came in it differently, we didn't have any sort of legacy, any baggage that we were carrying. And because we came from the streaming world, we sort of came, I guess, from the low end, from the, if we were looking at building a studio, we had a budget of thousands or tens of thousands, whereas a lot of broadcasters, would have budgets of hundreds of thousands or millions. So what we say to clients is, this is the solution that you've had. But why not think about these new technologies? A lot of these technologies are effectively disruptive. Something that 5 years ago or 10 years ago might have cost you many millions to do, you can do with a piece of software on a fast PC these days. So being able to leverage some of these new technologies, disruptive technologies, by adding value, and because of my background, I was also able to do multiple things. So I've had clients who have said to me, "Oh, great, it's a great bit of work, Mark. We like what you're saying, but we need to write the business case." And over the years, I've written so many business cases. We even write business cases for clients to take to their boards or to their owners. I think that being able to look at the market in a different way to a lot of the existing consultants has been very useful. The other thing we do is we try not to supply hardware. We're a consultant, but we also do engineering services. So we do go and help people, rip out studios, put in new studios. Often they say, "Oh, can you supply all the equipment, Mark?" But we're not really interested in doing that. We don't want to be tied into. And then there is always the thing of, well, are they then getting paid if you put in this system? The number of times I've been at, NAB or IBC or whatever, and people say, "Oh, well, if you get the sale for us, Mark, we'll give you 10% or 20% of, Yeah, which is nice, and it would be easy to do that. But we're always upfront with our clients, so we try and do things fairly and openly, and we try and get the clients to purchase the hardware. It doesn't mean that we're not involved in negotiating some of the deals. And often clients will say to me, "Well, you've saved us, far more than you've cost us," so which is nice.
So I think you've already kind of answered this question, Mark. With virtualization and the ongoing shift towards, software-centric kind of instances in the cloud, is this a welcome change for you and the consultancy, and how has it affected it?
It's still early days. Virtualization I don't have a problem with if you're doing it locally. I think virtualization in the cloud and cloud generally in broadcast is challenging. Latency. I have one of my clients, we have a sort of a hybrid. It's not really cloud, but we're using a lot of networks to deliver their solution. You have a link between point A and point B. And in this case, we have a satellite downlinked into IRDs. We're then putting it into professional encoders, streaming it across the internet to another place for switching. That latency on that link can vary between, 1.5 seconds on a good day to 4 seconds the next day. And if you are then trying to schedule, accurate switching with those sort of delays, it is impossible. I'm sure that the links are getting quicker, but you almost need to be able to dial in a delay and just say, let's just say it's 10 seconds. So there's always something, and it's always 10 seconds, then it will work. But we're not there yet. So this whole thing about cloud, I think it is exciting. I saw that a couple of companies have been talking about what they call hybrid cloud, which isn't just having everything up in the cloud, but you have a mixture of local hardware and some stuff in the cloud. And there's some exciting stuff. But again, if you're in broadcast, if you're in, you're trying to time to frames or fractions of a second, there are challenges. Some of it is good. I've looked at doing switching in the cloud, not convinced yet. I think it's getting better. And it'll be there. But it is exciting, but it's still early days. But you have to keep an eye on it. You have to know what it's good for. You have to understand if you're going to use it, what are the impacts on your business. And we had another client who their station ident, was meant to go out at exactly the same time every day. And because of latency, it overran on top of other things. And, there's nothing that can get your viewers more agitated than getting an ID come up as the news headlines are rolling, I can tell you.
Yeah, I could imagine. So, following on that, how has the recent situation with obviously the global pandemic and COVID-19 impacted consultancy within our industry? Is there anything from your perspective you can offer?
A couple of things. First of all, I've enjoyed not traveling.
Haven't we all?
As
Mark,
somebody,
haven't we all?
has somebody in 2018 spent 24 weeks out of the country? It was nice. Luckily, I cut it down a lot last year. So I realized that was too much. I mean, one of the things we do is we're global. I mean, we help people around the world. We're not UK centric. We're not European centric. We're global. I have customers a lot over towards the West, the Americas and things, but I've helped people all over the world. And traveling is part of it. And with new clients, it's a problem because once you've established a relationship, quite often, you know them, then not meeting them is fine. But with new clients, it can be a little bit difficult. Traveling is one aspect that has changed, but the other aspect is actually it's come to our strengths, because when we help with engineering deployments, we make sure that we can access all the critical systems remotely. We build for any client that's reasonably large. We build our own dashboards that basically lists all the systems within this broadcast. So they're a TV and radio broadcaster. I can log on and adjust their television transmitters. I can go and I can actually switch one of their radio stations. I can go into their network and interrogate their network. Being able to do this remotely has been great, because things have happened that we've been able to go and fix remotely. It's not always an advantage when you're sitting down at 7 p.m. on a Saturday night, having a nice candlelit dinner, as happened last year to me with my wife, and the phone goes off and it says radio station is off the air. But you got to your room, you open the dashboard, you get in, and a few minutes later the system is up and running. We were sort of prepared for this by putting in all these systems, by being ready to be able to adjust things remotely has worked well with us. Many times it's been an advantage. We haven't seen many new clients. I think a lot of people are. We have customers whose revenue has been seriously impacted, obviously by COVID, so they're spending less. I think what will happen is that will eventually lead to more interest in what we offer, because we try and be disruptive, use lower cost solutions. Being able to do things remotely, it's part of our value proposition, which is customers really like.
So, I mean, going off that topic a little bit, how do you see the future for TFN TV going forwards? And it's such a broad question, but
it is a broad question. In a way, I'm worried, because having just said what I've said, I think we're going to start getting a lot of more interest. Now, we are careful. We only have a handful of clients, and the reason that we only have a handful of clients, we want to be able to offer them top-notch service. So when something happens at 7 p.m. on a Saturday night, and even if you are sitting having dinner with your wife, you still fix the problem for them, or you tell them how to fix the problem. We're starting to see a little bit more interest, in these sort of services. So I'm partly worried, because I think we might get a lot more interest. Now, to that end, the way we work is we have a couple of us who are, available, most of the time, as it were. And then we have a network of our people we want to work with. We have, if somebody wants to look at studio sound, how to make the best sound on TV, we have one of the top sound supervisors in the world who is on our books, as it were. We just get him involved. If people want something installed, we have some great engineers. So we know people and we bring them in. What we want to make sure is that anything that we offer to do, we can do well. We're also a little bit worried about Brexit, and we do work in Europe. And I guess none of us, whatever your views on Brexit, we don't know how we're going to be able to work in January. So that concerns us. I think that we're going to see an increase in demand for our services, no doubt about it. It's going to be interesting. I think some broadcasters aren't going to survive. I think we're starting to see that. We want to be in a position to be able to help people, help them well. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and this is more of a personal question for me, but will we be seeing a much needed return of StudioTech TV on YouTube anytime soon?
Oh, you and hundreds or thousands of others. 17,500 subscribers, I think, last time I looked. So for those who don't know, when 10 years ago we started doing these YouTube videos, and it just grew. It grew and grew, and then we were growing our consultancy alongside that. Slowly at first. I think we did 150 live every Tuesday night. It was a live broadcast. That's 3 years, and we only missed Christmas and New Year. It was 3 years, and we did a lot of other reviews of stuff as well. I think we got 400 or 500 videos up. And then what happened was we just got so busy we didn't have time, because as you know, even for a podcast like this, you will have spent time thinking about the questions. And our rule of thumb was, for every hour of live video we did, you needed a day to prepare for it. It's a bit like they say that in the editing world, it's meant to be an hour for every minute of finished video editing. I've luckily never spent that long, but I can see if you were grading it and doing everything, it's probably right. So it is something I would love to do. Unfortunately, my a good friend and colleague, Peter, who helped me with it, he unfortunately passed away last year. So in many ways, it wouldn't be the same doing it without him. It is something that we keep revisiting. I get asked every week, when's it going to come back? Maybe we'll do a special or something. I don't think it's going to come back on the regular basis, but it was a great ride, and there's still a lot of really useful information in there. People looking at products, etc., and it's still very popular. So just check out the StudioTech.tv website and see what's there, but don't expect anything new too soon. Sorry about that, Neil.
That's quite all right, Mark. Like you said, there's a lot of kind of behind the scenes action and work that goes into it, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. And, to make it look natural is what we were trying to do. And the more preparation you do, the more natural it looks. It's
I've got you guys really pulled it off.
Yeah, well,
you really pulled it off.
Well, thank you. And we were doing something quite revolutionary in the days. We had Vance in the US, so we had a live link. So we understand latency, but we got that latency down to a second and a half. And it was great to be able to do a live show with somebody 4,000 miles away. Most of the time it worked great. I mean, just occasionally the internet gremlins got in the way, but that is something you just have to put up with. So, and I think that people saw that and thought that it all looked natural, and probably thought it looked easy. A lot of people then got in contact with us. Well, how do we do it, or how do we do it for our business? So I've helped major corporates, in around the world, several in the UK, some big organizations in London who want to say, well, how do we do this for our members or for our community? It was a ride. And if anybody, hasn't done it, you should challenge yourself just to see, what it takes.
On a different note, what is your opinion on the kind of virtual events and the shows that have been popping up in the last few months?
I love and hate shows. I don't know if you're the same. I love the idea of them. I love meeting the people. There are some great people in the industry. I mean, some fantastic people. Made some really good friends in the industry. And it's always lovely to see them. Do we actually need to go to these shows to find out the latest technology? Probably not, to be honest. And in fact, a few years ago, I put forward a proposal of doing a virtual sort of showcase. I mean, if you're in radio, there's a bunch of 10 probably companies that you want to hear about. If you're in TV, it might be a little bit bigger, and put together, interest in a plan for a virtual showcase for one particular company. And they decided not to do it, which I thought was a shame, but I think we're now going to be seeing that, in the way that people are working from home and find that acceptable. But it's nice not to have to travel. Having been to Las Vegas, well, I went to Las Vegas for years for a show called Comdex, which was the big computer, the PC big event. I did that for years, when I was working in IT. And then when that stopped, I thought, oh, thank goodness, I don't have to go to Las Vegas anymore. Then I ended up going to NAB in Vegas. And
there's no escape, Martin, no escape.
No escape. And, and the worst one was where I booked into the flight, and yes, I was in the middle seat between two big guys, for 10 and a half hours or what it was. So I was always a lot more careful with booking my seat after that, and didn't mind paying the £30 or whatever it was to get the confirmed seat. I think being able to showcase your products is important. How do people, learn about them otherwise? And like a lot of people, I get lots of, press releases, but, you need to be able to see it and look at the back panel and have somebody explain what it does. But how you then get answers to your questions, because there's always, a question that you have that they don't address. That's going to be interesting, which I think we'll see. Hopefully we'll see more people putting up videos as well. I'm actually amazed how the broadcast industry hasn't really used videos in its marketing and support. You think they'd be the first. It's a bit like, the cobbler's children have bare feet. They don't think about it. Don't think about it for themselves. They think about it for others.
Yeah, no, I agree. Completely agree.
I mean, I did a lot of work for one big multinational company who's been incredibly busy recently because of COVID, but it was their support organization that got hold of me, because they were finding that they are getting support queries, and they got they have quite good systems that say the top 100 questions this week are these 5 or top the top 5 of the top 100 questions are these, and they say, so what we want to do is to put a video up for these top 5 questions every week, because then we can do one of two things. Either people will hopefully through our systems find it through self-help, or we can say, that's a really good question. And if you go to this website, click on this link, there's the answer to your question. So the support call either disappears or it becomes much shorter than having to talk people through. So it isn't, so it isn't that they're not this company was non-broadcast, but they just saw that that's how the video could help them. And I'm surprised a lot of broadcast companies don't use video to help them as well. I think we might see more of that.
For me in particular as well, if I've ever got any issues or queries, I'd like to go and find the answer myself. I like to put in a bit of work, watch a video, get it sorted ASAP. And that's the way I like to do things. So no, I completely agree.
The investment is worth it in those sort of things. And so I think, getting back to the question about IBC, I think they're going to have to put up, if they really want to get people to understand the product, they're going to have to do additional things. And whether that is they get somebody, and they do like a Q&A session about it or something like that, they're going to have to. Hopefully the shows will come back. I think a lot of them will be very different and maybe not as big, but we need an excuse to get together occasionally once it's safe to do so.
So, I mean, another really broad question. From your perspective, what do you think lies ahead for the future of the broadcast technology industry? We tend to ask people just to kind of sum it up in one word if you can, but feel free to say whatever.
Okay, one word will be turmoil.
That's quite a serious word, Mark.
I think, yeah. I think we talked about a lot of the reasons that with COVID, and I think why things will be different now. If you look at it, advertising revenues are down. The industry is moving. Broadcast engineers now also need to be IT engineers. They need to be network engineers. It is all moving to IP. I can't tell you the enjoyment I have had going into, for example, radio studios and putting in new infrastructure. You take out a bundle of cables that is literally, 4 or 5 inches thick, 13, 15 centimeters thick of cables. You take this all out and you put in one bit of, category 5 Ethernet cable. Well, you probably put 2 in because you never put 1 in. You might as well put a spare one in just in case. A lot of the engineers we come across are scared of this, of course, because they don't understand it. They know how to solder XLRs on and to do patch panels, but you ask them to configure a switch to support various protocols. There is a lot of change there. So not necessarily change of staff, but a lot of training needed. The other thing I think has to change is that systems need to be more open. They need to be able to interconnect. I think the days of the dinosaurs are over in the broadcast technology world. If you don't adopt standards, whether it's the latest IP standard for video or for audio, if you don't allow your system to export the playlists in the right format, or you don't allow them to do it instantly. I mean, you'll know who I'm talking about, but I have clients who, if they want to adjust a playlist, it's a minimum of $1,000 to get some consultant just to tweak something. I have never seen a quote for tweaking something from some of these big companies of less than $1,000. And normally, it's 2, 3, 4,000 because they have to test the one line of code that they've had to change. So I think those days are going to come to an end, and costs of technology are going down, and performance is going up. I sat on a plane to IBC next to a guy who I won't name, lovely guy. He was CEO of a company that makes switches and switch control surfaces. What he does 99% of the time is worry about the cost of the switches. That is the single thing that affects his cost base. When you can replace a lot of interfaces with touch screens or just get clever, they probably only sell tens a year, or maybe 50s, or maybe hundreds, but they don't sell very many. But they have to be high profit margin, and I think companies like that are they're just going to have to adapt new technologies to get their costs down, to do things differently, find a way of using their great knowledge, skills, and resources to bring in other products. So I think, with all that, with with COVID, decreasing advertising revenues, a need for networking skills, the fact that I don't think people will buy solutions unless they can interconnect and be open, costs going down, but performance going up. I think turmoil's a good word. I don't think it's a particularly harsh word. I think you need to be ready for it, and you can't ignore it.
Scary and exciting all at the same time, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, well, but anything like this gives you opportunities. Look at COVID. Yeah, it's been scary, especially scary in the early days, especially here in the UK, right? Where we were told to stay at home, not go out, etc. But on the other hand, it's given people opportunity to do other things, to work differently. So there is a lot of opportunity, and the companies that are agile and see it and will take advice and from multiple sources. I'm not saying that I know everything, but they can take advice from me, other people, and look at the where their business is going, and just be prepared.
In terms of TFN TV, are there any exciting projects in the pipeline at the moment that you can share, or is it all confidential? Or
OTT, a lot of people interested in OTT, a lot of broadcasters interested in OTT. So I've been doing a lot of work with various platform providers, all the big names, and some really quite innovative smaller companies looking at how we do that. A lot of the issues around there are sort of a more paperwork, either licensing issues and things like that. Having to geo block stuff and what have you. So that is really interesting. The other sort of related challenge to that is it's to do with the fact the way that people are watching television now. A lot of people, don't even have a TV these days. I mean, I have two daughters, both working, and actually one of them has now got a TV because the fiance has one. But they up until then they didn't have a TV. They watch what they want when they want. So being able to have both sort of linear play out and play out on demand is important to get to both audiences, because if not everybody wants to watch the news at 10 o'clock at night. The way I was brought up, the news was on at 6 and 10 or whatever it was, 6 and 9 I think in those days, and that's how you got your fix. But now people want to watch the news when they want to watch the news, or they want to watch that movie when they want to watch that movie. There are also lots of people who do like having a linear play out of stuff, so you need to be able to do both. But how do you deliver to both? And I have to say, we probably watch more non-broadcast sources than we do broadcast sources. I mean, YouTube, there's a lot of really good stuff on YouTube now. I mean, a lot of people are doing very well on YouTube and producing some good and interesting stuff, obviously, as well as Netflix and BritBox and all these other sources. So so OTT is interesting because you need both linear and on demand, which it can deliver. So that there is some interesting stuff around, and stuff that we've been able to do without traveling, which is just as well.
I'm starting to get the feeling you're really glad that the commuting aspect's been taken away, Mark.
Yeah, well, I got. I'm not sure it was a badge of honor or a badge of gold, but on one of the airlines, I got their top, tier membership. So I had a sort of a gold card on them, and which brings lots of nice, benefits, but it's not really what you want. And the thought of going on a plane at the moment is not the best thing I want. So I think everybody's going to be looking at how can we do things more remotely. But on the other hand, we think we all still have an urge to travel to some extent. So hopefully it'll be safe to do so, if not too soon away.
If anyone's interested in what you're doing, they want any advice or want to inquire about consultancy, where can they best get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, well, they can either email me, which is mark.johnson@TTFN TV, or they can look at the website, which actually is StudioTech.tv, or you can put TTFN.tv and it'll just redirect you. And if you go to the top right, it says something about, inquire about services or services offered, and that's also where, most of the videos are available. So, yeah, the way we normally work is, we'll have a chat with somebody, talk things through, and say, yeah, I think we might be able to help, and, take it from there. So, yeah, if people want to get in touch, want to find out what's disruptive and what might be able to help them, yeah, happy to talk.
Excellent stuff, Mark. Thank you very much for coming on and speaking with me today. It's been really great.
It's been a pleasure. It's been nice to be back in front of the microphone again. Thanks, Neil.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Bye-bye.